we're kind of just doing like a little raw coding session right now. Get you up to speed. So this is actually a production app that I'm going to be working on. So it is for a real client. It is building a mobile application for reservations for basically like a dog boarding business for grooming. They do doggy daycare and all that other stuff. There's actually a lot of stuff that there's a lot of business logic that's going on here. I'm just getting started, although this is kind of a rewrite from scratch. I just started this the other day. Meanwhile, I've been working on this project for, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years. So yeah, I'm doing rewrites. There's a lot of stuff that I learned on the first go around that mistakes that I made, and some tech debt that I previously inherited that I want to clean up. So yeah, I'm just going to walk you through basically how I like to build my application. So React Native application, as you can see, the UI is just horrendous. There really is no UI. And that's kind of how I like to build things. At first, the visual stuff is actually very easy to do for the most part. Assuming that you don't have any insanely complicated layouts or animations, anything along those lines. The stuff that takes a lot more time is like API integration and basically business logic code. Takes a lot of time to do. So, as you can see right here, I've got down here like a tab navigation. We got home, pets, and appointments. And the idea is that you can go ahead and create a new reservation, then ask you boarding or grooming. So I don't have any of this stuff like completely hooked up. This is essentially what I have right now. I just started doing some API calls. I got all that stuff hooked up. I'll get into my tech stack in a little bit. But essentially, you can go ahead and create a reservation. Pick up, select the drop-off location, go ahead and pick your time. Once again, I'll address all the styles later, but for right now, what I like to do is kind of just get a general lay of the land and just throw some stuff up on into the application, see what sticks, what doesn't, because here's the thing, when you start building larger applications, you're never really going to know up front all of the different ins and outs of things that you have to address. There's a lot of edge cases that you'll never actually think of ahead of time until you start building the thing. So there's no real, in my opinion, there's really no point in trying to make something 100% feature complete when you know that there's a lot of other I guess related components or business logic that could affect this stuff. So with that being said, as you can tell, UI is not that great. What I'm working on right now is essentially to create a reservation, you need a pet that is first assigned to your account. As you can see right now, I really don't have any pets. So then I've got this add pet, and then we're on a create pet drop down right here. And then there's a form that you got to fill out. But this is all being populated from a API. So I have to do API calls for all of these. You have to get the different, these aren't actual text strings that get sent back to the API. These are IDs. So obviously you have to get those IDs from the API itself. So you just pick different colors and stuff along those lines. Here's an interesting problem right here is that for breed, the list was actually insane. It was like a megabyte of just JSON to render a list. I don't even know how many different breeds there were. So maybe like 1,000, something along those lines. And there's some performance issues. So what I did for now, just hard coded one, golden, and just gave it a real ID that's actually in the database. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Yeah, so I'm going to get into some coding right now. What I'm using, tech stack, obviously React Native, and Native Base is the layer that I'm using for basically my view components. Your buttons, your modals, your select boxes, and all that other stuff. So I will go ahead and I'll adjust styles later. I'm not too concerned about it. But what I did was select box itself. They've got a pretty good one, just right out of Native Base. But what I want to do is kind of extend it, make sure that everything had a label and that the styles were consistent. So what you go ahead and do is you create your own component that's a select box that instantiates all of the original native base select box components with their form controls and the form labels and everything like that. So then the nice thing is, when I go over to here, so let's say I've got select box, I can just pass in this, which is a lot nicer than having to pass in this every single time. Especially if you ever go to refactor your code, you want to update styles, and you say, okay, for a select box, we want the max width to be 350 pixels now instead of 300. You would have to search through every single component instantiation to make that change, which can be, yeah, that can be a mess. So when you have things that you repeat over and over and over again, it's always good to create a component for them and then just expose a clean interface for it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.